We are coming to you from Target Field in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where tonight WGN Sports on My 50 presents White Sox baseball. So Zay Abreu, Todd Frazier, Jimmy Rollins in the Sox as they get set to butt heads with Paul Molitor's Minnesota Twins. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Ken Harrelson with Steve Stone as we get set to bring you Game 2 of this 3-game setting, Game 2 of this 6-game road trip. We have one more to hear tomorrow, and then we'll finish it off with 3 in St. Petersburg. So in the opener on Monday, it was a very frigid, cold day. Players said it was one of the coldest they ever experienced. Jose Quintana went out there and once again was just brilliant. Sox won that ball game 4-1, but what an at-bat by Austin Jackson.
Austin Jackson just came about a foot from hitting a grand slam home run, and normally when that happens, the disappointment leads to a strikeout or a ground out. Here it is, line drive down the line. I mean, this one just missed. Would have been the first home run by an outfielder for the Sox this year, but he came back and took one right back up the middle, driving in 2. Turned out to be the biggest hit of the ball game as the Sox went on to win 4-1. And Jackson has done a great job in this ballpark over the course of his career, hitting .333. He's hit a couple of home runs against Phil Hughes in this park, hitting .292 overall against Hughes. He's one of the few right-handers that have had great luck with him, and hopefully that continues tonight.
Well, Austin Jackson has been something special. I mean, offensively, defensively, and certainly in that clubhouse. But pitching matchups tonight, Carlos Rodon, who really pitched well out in Oakland.
I thought he did terrific. In fact, gave up a run in the first inning, a run in the second, then slammed the door through 7 innings. So although he didn't have great control early, the control did come to him. His changeup worked very well. The put-away slider was unbelievable, but he battled Sonny Gray, and Sonny Gray beat him 2-1. But overall, you'd say this was a very good outing as he got the bullpen into the 8th inning. Hopefully more of the same tonight. He saw the Twins last year twice, once as a reliever, once as a starter. And in this ballpark, Phil Hughes has been terrific, 18-9 with an ERA just under 4. This is a guy who last year had a .440 earned run average. He got tattooed, but he only walked 16 guys in 150-some innings. He gets the ball over the plate, so you got to be ready early.
All right, Carlos, roll down on the bump. Sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way. Chicago White Sox baseball is brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. By Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda, now at your Honda dealer. Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. And by Ford, America's best-selling brand 6 years running, inviting you to check out our fuel-efficient lineup at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com. And by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers who invite you to test drive our award-winning lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com.
Welcome back to the ballpark. One of the goals for the White Sox in 2016 was to get off to a good start in April. With a 5-2 record, general manager Rick Hahn is pleased with the way the Sox are playing after the first week.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we've emphasized for several months going back that it was important for us to have a strong spring, to come out of the gate strong and play well early. Obviously, it's a tough month schedule-wise, and the team's going to be challenged early, and thus far I think they've responded really well. And I think we're all extremely pleased, not just with the win-loss results, but how this team has shown energy and focus and played the game real well over the first 7 days so far.
Stay with us. We'll have tonight's lineups and the first pitch right after these messages. From the last couple of days when it was a little chilly here in the Twin Cities, but supposedly a beautiful day tomorrow for the finale of this series, a day game, and then it's off to Tampa Bay as you look at what has been a very happy dugout for the Sox, and who wouldn't be happy at 5-2. They share the lead in the AL Central with Kansas City, also 5-2, and that has come on the road for the most part. Last year, before the Sox won their 4th game, it was well into May. This year, they're 4-1 away from home, and to get off to a good start, the Sox knew that they had to be very good away from U.S. Cellular Field. One look at the schedule told you there was 3 games against the Indians, sandwiched in between, 4 games in Oakland, and then on the road to both Minnesota and Tampa Bay. And so to get off to the kind of start they got off to, they would have to win on the road, and that's exactly what happened. So let's take a look at how Robin is going to line up our Sox for the game tonight. Adam Eaton is leading it off, and he's been red hot with Jimmy Rollins in the 2 spot. Then it's Jose Abreu, Todd Frazier, Melky Cabrera sitting on 100 home runs. The next run batted in will be number 600. Brett Lawrie playing second base, and it's Jerry Sands who gets a start tonight with Alex Avila behind the plate and Austin Jackson in center field. The defense and how they'll line up behind Phil Hughes, Eddie Rosario in left, Byron Buxton in center field, and then the highly thought of prospect Max Kepler is in right. That's Trevor Plouffe, Eduardo Escobar, Brian Dozier, and Joe Mauer around the infield with Kurt Suzuki behind the plate and Phil Hughes on the hill. Hughes is absolutely a strike throwing machine. Last time out, he lost to Baltimore going 6 innings. Gave up 3 earned runs, didn't walk anybody. That's no surprise there. Last year he walked just 16 men. And on the first pitch, he throws strikes over 70% of the time. That's the best in baseball, and so you've got to be ready early because he's going to come right at you. The umpires for the game tonight: behind the plate, Andy Fletcher; at first base, Mark Ripperger; Joe West is at second, and Kerwin Danley is at third. So Minnesota comes in 0-7, and Paul Molitor, talking to his team, said, look, this is so much a mental game. Don't worry about the 0-7. Take care of business today, and things will start to fall into place. He's surprised, like everybody else, at the lack of offense, because that was thought to be one of the strengths of this team. So they've thrown the ball around the infield, which means we're ready to play baseball, and that means I'm ready to throw it to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
Hi, Stoney. Thank you. And once again, welcome to Target Field for the second of this 3-game set and the second of this 6-game road trip. And before we show you our picks to click, you at home select yours as the first pitch of the ball game, as you might suspect, as Escobar right over the top, got a good arm, throws him out, 1 pitch, 1 out. But when you get a guy who throws first pitch strike 70% of the time, you better go up there hacking.
That most likely is the game plan, and the Sox have had their problems in the first inning. Just one now for 23 at bats. They've had a hard time getting anything going. They haven't scored in the first, and last ball game was the first run all season long. They scored in the second inning.
Yeah, we were the only club in Major League Baseball that had not scored in the first 2 innings. It's
pretty amazing when you think of how well this team has started.
Well, I just like the way they played. They've caught the ball. There's energy. You look in that dugout, when something good happens, they're up on their feet. Yep. I mean, I love that. That's the way it should be. As Rollins with a soft line drive, so 2 down. So here's Abreu. He was 0 for 3 on Monday with a couple of walks. Outfield slightly to the right, gap out there. In left center. And here at Target Field, 328 down the right field line, 339 down the left field line, 377 in left center, 365 in right center, and straightaway center, 411 just to the left of center field. There was right on the corner.
When you're around the plate, you're going to have a tendency to get the benefit of just about each and every call. Andy Fletcher knows that Hughes throws a lot of strikes, so you got to be hacking. He's got a cutter. He's got a good slow curveball. And Neil Allen, the pitching coach, has tried to convince him to use his changeups to right-handers. Last year he just used it to left-handers. Last year he had a pretty high ERA for him.
That didn't take long. 1, 2, 3 after half an inning play. It's our guys nothing, and their guys, well, they're coming to bat.
Wins for the game tonight. Brian Dozier leading it off, and it's Joe Mauer, Miguel Sano, with Trevor Plouffe, Eddie Rosario, Eduardo Escobar, Max Kepler, Kurt Suzuki, who's been red hot against our Sox lifetime, and Byron Buxton hitting ninth and playing center field. The defense and how they'll line up behind Carlos Rodon. Melky Cabrera, Austin Jackson, and Adam Eaton in the outfield with Frazier, Rollins, Lowry, and Abreu in the infield. Alex Avila gets a nod behind the plate, and Carlos Rodon, who was pretty good the first time out, only to lose to Sonny Gray 2-1, looking for his first win of the year.
So here's Dozier.
Carlos has only thrown first pitch strikes 45% of the time in his first outing, and that's not good enough to stay on top of most hitters.
They got a shift on. And there's first pitch strike. That was the most important pitch in baseball. First pitch strike.
You get it over and it becomes a defensive at bat.
To 99% of the hitters. Long way for everybody to go now. Attaboy. Adam will take charge, makes the catch. It was going to be a tough one for Jose. Meanwhile, one down.
Well, with the shift on, Lowry couldn't get even close to it, and Jose was running around back to the infield. Very difficult play for him as the wind a factor tonight. So Adam Eaton comes on, calls off the big man, and makes the catch.
When I say 98% of, you got about 2% of the hitters that they don't care about. They don't mind hitting with 2 strikes, and those are few and far between. There's one that's going to be joining us later in the ball game, Rod Carew. He didn't mind hitting with 2 strikes.
No.
Wade Boggs didn't mind hitting with 2 strikes. George Brett. But those are the exception, and most of those guys, well, they're in the Hall of Fame.
Joe Mauer, normally one of those guys that doesn't mind hitting with 2 strikes. There you look at the numbers last time out. Just the 1 walk, gave up a run in the first, a run in the second, and after that, he was unhittable.
Out and around that one. Quickly 2 gone. Well, that's one reason the count is everything in hitting to most guys. It's one reason the big hurt Frank Thomas was such a good hitter. He was 2-0-3-1 almost every time he went up to the plate.
They had a lot of pitchers afraid of him.
That's why they were 2-0-3-1. Now who's going to hit them? I was 0-2-1-2. Now who's going to hit the most?
Well, it's true. That's why the big man is in the Hall of Fame.
Here's Sano. Miguel 0-for-3 on Monday. Minnesota hitting at .219, off to a slow start in their first 7 games, and indeed what Steve touched on was that was supposed to be one of the big strengths of this ball club was their offense up and down the lineup.
Sano did see Carlos last year, and I believe hit a home run off him.
A long one.
This guy can hit home runs off a lot of people.
Checks it up on that slider.
Talked to Alex about Carlos before the game, and he said to me that when he calls that slider into right-handers, he wants the hard put-away slider. When he calls it away, he said he'll take that soft slider that he tries to get over the plate. Asked him about his changeup, and he said, you know, he was so concerned about the disparity between the fastball and changeup, he was losing sight of where he wanted to throw the changeup. He said, don't worry about the velocity, just worry about the arm speed.
There's a strike, and he didn't get it. That had the corner. Alex is letting Andy Fletcher know it too.
Well, that's a pitch you'd love to have. Had the outer part of the outside corner, but Sano took it and trotted off to first base.
So here's Plouffe. He's 2 for 5 lifetime off Carlos. It was almost a blueprint. Plouffe. Last year, 35 doubles. Dozier had 39. One of 4 guys with 30 or more doubles. Escobar had 31. a strike.
That was a good off-speed pitch. I think he surprised Plouffe with it.
Yeah, he gave up on that pitch in a hurry. Now with a 94, high and wide. Sox last year played 10 games in this ballpark, and we won 2 of them. Overall, we played them 19 times, and of the 19, we won 6. They had our number. Of course, a few clubs had our number last year, last couple of years. Oh, nice block right there by one of the fans. Didn't get the ball, but he saved somebody possibly from getting scorched.
And as you can see, just about everything but that changeup has been away to Plouffe.
He gone. There's that put away slider, and that'll retire the side. After 1, there's no score. The top of the 2nd inning, no score. Frazier, Cabrera, and Laurie to face the big right-hander, 6'5", 240-pound Phil Hughes out of Laguna Beach. First pitch strike right there.
That's what's going to happen most all the time with the best in baseball, that first pitch strike.
Just off the corner. Had him off balance right there.
Glenn Perkins, a fine closer of this team, is going on the disabled list. So Kevin Jepson is going to close for them. Perkins a good one, but he had some shoulder problems.
All right, 1 out, and let's check out our picks to click tonight. Jim and Joe, our director and crew, well, they went with Alex. Steve's going with Jerry Sands. And my pick tonight is birthday boy John Guido Sr. John also had his first hole-in-one the other day. So John Guido, happy birthday, buddy. Many more. We're going to go with Austin Jackson.
I believe Melky's going to have a pretty good night tonight. Hughes is around the plate a lot. And Melky off to a better start this year than last. Of course, not if he swings at that. That ball was a good 4 or 5 inches inside. Hughes so far has not broken out the big curveball, using his changeup sparingly. But his fastball looks a little like a cutter, only the cutter moves more.
Yes, he did. 2 down. Well, you know, you can, as a hitter, you can get a pretty good line on Hughes just by going over his stats, which a lot of hitters do. Obviously, we know we had last 2 years. Last year 155 innings. The year before 209. He walked 16. 2014 walked 16 last year.
I mean, the control is just otherworldly for him.
But the thing that really shows you how you can get a good line on him is hit batsmen. He doesn't hit guys. So what does that tell you? He doesn't pitch inside that much.
No, he stays away most of the time. But boy, he can paint that outside corner.
Well, if you're looking for it, you can still hit it hard. If you're cheating out there. He only hit 2 guys last year. He hit 5 the year before, 5 the year before that. So if you look at these as a hitter, which most hitters go over, they say, hey, I can go to the plate, look for the ball out over the plate, not worry about anything in here.
Now, 2 years ago, he went 18-10. Was a big year for him. His ERA just a touch above 3.5. That for a guy that's not overpowering. And he almost threw 210 innings.
That ball hit well into right field. Kepler going back on the track. So Brett is retired. That is 6 up, 6 down for Hughes. Tape, bottom of the 2nd inning. Eddie Rosario, Eduardo Escobar, and Max Kepler. Rosario 0 for 3 on Monday. Well, Steve and I knew it was cold, but I didn't realize how cold it was down, especially when that sun got behind the stands here. I was talking to some of the guys after the game. They said it's as cold as they have ever been.
Well, there's no day at the beach in Chicago, but
oh, our guys have seen that a lot.
they have a chance to see that a lot coming up. Last year, Carlos did not give up a home run to a left-hand hitter. I talked to Paul Molitor before the game. He said he was starting 3 of them. He said usually not the best thing, but you're going to start Joe Mauer against anybody, and Rosario is taking over as their everyday left fielder, and he's starting Max Kepler in right tonight.
Yeah, well, Rosario, he's just 24 years old, and he's got a chance to be a real good one. So you're going to play him every day. 15 triples last year in a short time. There's a strike. Full count. He gone.
White Sox group outing is the perfect way to entertain clients, promote teamwork, and boost morale. Your group can enjoy special benefits when you reserve 20 or more seats. The larger your group, the larger your discount. To purchase White Sox tickets, visit whitesox.com/group.
There's Escobar. He was 2 for 4 on Monday. Hitting at .370.
Eduardo always has a smile on his face, although defense has been somewhat of a problem this year, leading the major leagues with 3 errors. He is a good shortstop. When asked about his hitting, he said he's better hitter left-handed, but he's a natural right-hander. Better hitter left-handed because he faces many more right-handed starters. That, of course, with the exception of when you face the White Sox with 4 left-handed starters, and Eduardo swinging most of the time from the right side.
Well, we have so many good shortstops in the American League, young shortstops. It's the most I have ever seen.
Now with Correa coming up and Lindor coming up, I mean, it adds 2 to a wide array of very talented shortstops.
Well, those 2 right there are going to probably have a good chance of going to Cooperstown. I mean, that's how good they are.
They stay healthy.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
One thing about Escobar, though, he gets such a good jump out there, and he has such big range. He's going to make a lot of errors, because he's going to get the balls that some guys can't get to. And when you do that and you try to throw them out, you're going to make some bad throws. We had a shortstop here a long time ago, and you know yourself being a pitcher, there are some guys who play behind you that if they made errors, it really ticked you off. I mean, for whatever reason, whether it was the way they were in the clubhouse, the way they were a person, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And there are other guys who made errors that didn't bother you one bit. We had a shortstop and made a lot of errors that didn't bother our guys one bit, and that was, of course, Jose Valentin. Then we had another shortstop a long time ago, made errors that bothered everybody. It was Mike Caruso.
He wasn't the biggest guy around.
Here you go. There's that wipeout.
And when Alex calls that, he realizes that the majority of the pitches are going to be in the dirt, and he's got to be down there and make sure that he at least blocks it. This one in the dirt. Alex caught it. So that's 3 strikeouts in a row for Carlos Rodon.
All right. If that's the case, you got to take that pitch away from him. Or try. You got to make him, if he's going to throw that slider, backdoor you, not get it down and in like that, because nothing you can do. But if you're going to do that, being a right-handed hitter, you got to back off the plate and beat him to right field.
Well, that pitch you're not going to hit. If you can lay off it, that's another thing. But the spin is so tight.
Well, if you make yourself get off the plate enough to whereas you know anything that's coming in is going to be a ball, then you can take it. You don't have to check it up or anything else.
Kepler was born in Germany. That's because he is German. And not too many German-born players last year. Pretty good average. They're expecting, because of his size, 6'4", 210, he's going to have a lot bigger power than he's shown.
Well, he strikes out the side. That is 4 punch-outs for Carlos, and we're into the third with no score. No score. No runs, no hits, no errors. For us, no runs, no hits, no errors for them. It'll be Sands, Avila, and Jackson. It's all right. He had an idea. He got it and just couldn't do anything with it.
No, and at 90, it's kind of surprising, anywhere from 90 to 92, that Hughes is able to throw that fastball by Sox hitters. However, early in the game, at least, it has some late life.
Very quickly 0-2. Well, it's pretty obvious he's not afraid of contact.
No, and that's what's made him the pitcher that he's been, and he's been a good one.
He was 18-8 2010 with the Yankees.
The year with the Yankees that probably made the decision for them was a 4-14 year back in 2013. He came over to Minnesota, had a big year. Last year, not a great year for him. 11-9 in 25 starts, but he got hurt.
Four strikeouts now for Hughes.
Every one of the strikeouts has been of the swinging variety. That was a cutter. And it darted away from Sands at the last instant.
Well, as we talked earlier, if he's got command of that pitch, we got a problem.
Well, he was so disappointed in the season last year that he went on a strength and conditioning program, came into spring training 15 pounds lighter than he was last year. He felt, as well as a few other people, that he probably was out of shape.
First pitch strike. And what Steve touched on, as all Sox fans, baseball fans know, is that guys who's around the plate all the time is going to get the benefit of the doubt from that umpire, as well he should. They get in the rhythms like hitters or pitchers. They get the rhythm of calling strikes. They stay there.
Well, you're looking in the zone, and the ball, more times than not, is going to be right there.
2 down.
Join us for Dia de la Familia at U.S. Cellular Field when the White Sox face the Texas Rangers on Saturday, April 23rd. First 20,000 fans will receive a Jose Abreu plush bleacher creature presented by Total Performance Engine Oils. Visit WhiteSox.com to purchase your tickets today.
So here's Jackson. And that is hit hard into center field. That's a hang woven. Austin hits it right on the money. Meanwhile, that is 9 up, 9 down for Hughes. Only one man has reached base. That was a walk, which actually was a strike. Just a no in the first. So it'll be Suzuki, Buxton, then back to the top of the order with Brian Dozier. First pitch strike.
Ellis has done a better job tonight of throwing that first pitch over the plate.
High pop up right side. Abreu.
Hey, Chicagoland viewers, it's time for the Subway third inning triple play promotion. Text Subway 3 to 97999 right now, and the 300th texter will receive a $30 gift card to Subway restaurants in the Chicagoland area. Subway, fresh is what we do. One of the things you have to watch from Buxton is that push bunt to the right side with a left-hander on the mound.
Well, you brought it up last night, which is very germane to what could be his progress, and that is with his speed. Until he settles in at the big league level with major league pitching, to bunt at least once, maybe twice a game.
And especially the push bunt up the right side, which is easier for right-hand hitters against a left-handed starter.
Well, some right-handed hitters just cannot bunt. We call it a drag bunt, down to the third base. They just can't do it.
It's not easy. The easiest way is to push it. Buxton has a world of skills. And the Twins, who have him as their #1 prospect for a long time, are waiting to see some of that performance come out, because it's there. Everything he needs is there.
Full count.
He's awfully strong. He was hitting the ball into the upper deck in batting practice.
That's out of play right side. Got one on 3-2 right down the heart.
Strikeout pretty good. 25 of 41 in the zone for Carlos.
And that's a souvenir.
Well, in talking with Paul Molitor before the game about Buxton, he said that unfortunately the young man is worried about his mechanics when he comes to bat. Paul, a Hall of Fame hitter and a great one, brought up something that I know, Hawk, you've mentioned many times, and we'll talk about it after this AB, which is thinking about mechanics when you're hitting.
I'll tell you something that's maybe the greatest thing you'll ever hear about hitting. Okay?
Okay.
You got to let your thoughts dictate your mechanics, not your mechanics dictate your thoughts.
Well, that's one of the reasons why things have not worked out quite as well for him as they should.
There's that slider. 5 strikeouts now. Well, and that goes for a lot of guys who struggle. And you're sitting next to one his first 5 years in the big leagues. I absolutely stumped. And I finally got to the point that I didn't get any stronger. My swing didn't change. My approach did. My thoughts started dictating my mechanics, not my mechanics. And at that point, almost won a Triple Crown.
Well, like Molitor said, early in his career, when he got to 2 strikes, he wasn't a particularly good hitter. It took him a while to figure out exactly what he should do, and the fact that you need a different swing on 2 strikes.
Sure you do. We've seen, unfortunately, last couple of years, we've seen a couple of our hitters, few of them, really, with the same swing 0-2 as they did on 2-0.
Yeah, a lot of those guys around.
Not just us, everywhere. Dozier popped up. Adam Eaton made a nice running catch to take the heat off of Carew on it. Yeah, but you got to let your thoughts dictate those mechanics, not the reverse. Three and one. See that patch right there for heart of 29, Rod Carew's number.
Well, that was right down the middle.
I don't know what he's looking at.
Yeah, that one, that wasn't on the corner. It was down the middle. It was a perfect pitch. Take a look at where 5 pops up.
I don't know what he's looking at. That one's hard to miss right there, but he missed it. The other walk he missed on 3-2 as well. Dozier had 12 stolen bases last year. And his Mauer, he grounded out pretty sharp hit ball to Abreu. Takes it right there. Well, you get hitting instructors that it's mechanics. Not all of them, but most of them. The 3-2 to Dozier was a better pitch than that one. Vinny Marlis 0-2.
A lot of managers will bail out a hitter by sending a base runner in this situation at 0-2, especially lefty.
That's back through the middle, and you can cancel the postgame show. So now that man who should have been struck out on third base.
Joe Mauer doesn't have to worry about shortening his swing because he does that a lot. Catches one on the inside corner, takes it right back up the middle, and runners at the corners now with 2 outs.
Now, since he's come into this, after the first couple of years he was in this league, it just amazed me that he didn't hit 30 home runs a year with his ability at the plate. Big, 6'5", strong, 240.
Well, the last year that he was at the Metrodome, he had 16 home runs at home. In his entire career in this ballpark, he's hit 19 home runs.
Sano drew that first walk. Can I check it up? Runners at the corners, 2 out. And that one just off the corner. Two and one. Outfield, they're straight up, straight out, about equidistant.
Sano's had to learn a new position this year. He's a third baseman by trade. Spent his whole career in the infield, but having to shift to the outfield with the re-signing of Trevor Plouffe.
That evens the count. 2 on, 2 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Now here's Alex has really got to be on his toes behind that dish. Boy, that's a high. He just missed that one. That ball had upper tank written all over it. Mercy. Meanwhile, we're into the 4th, still scoreless.
On the 15-day disabled list on April 9th, and just today disabled Glenn Perkins, their closer. So they've had a busy early season on the list, and the injury report is brought to you by Dr. Anthony Romeo Orthopedics. If you have any shoulder or elbow problems, go to RomeoOrthopedics.com or call 312-432-2342.
He is one of the best in the world. Dr. Romeo. Adam. Hit the first pitch he saw. First pitch of the ball game hard to Escobar at short. No score here in the top of the 4th inning.
You started him off with the first pitch slow curveball, the first time he's done that tonight. With all the problems the Sox have had scoring early in the game, only 1 run the first 2 innings all year long. They've scored 6 in the 9th inning, and that usually will get the job done.
Oh, just foul. Yeah, we've seen some late inning runs scored, which is something we hadn't seen a whole bunch of.
No, and that, whether you're trying to overcome an opponent lead or you're using add-on runs, that's the trademark of a very good team, scoring late.
It's a state of mind. You get into a state of mind whereas you think you can score late in the ball game, as opposed to the last 2 years. If we were down 2 or 3 runs going to the 7th or 8th inning, you could almost wrap it up and send it to Cooperstown.
Pretty interesting observation by Dan Gladden, who does the radio over on the Twins side, and a former big league player and a good one. He was watching batting practice, very quiet Twins team, and he said, boy, what a difference without Torrey Hunter in that dugout and in that locker room.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. It's a big loss for this ball club.
And then he said, as opposed to your ball club, which is pretty lively.
Nice stop by Mauer. Hughes. Good play.
That keeps a no-hitter and perfect game alive, as Hughes just barely got there to beat Eaton and almost strayed over the line. So Hughes making a pretty good effort, but you can see almost a nasty collision at first base. Very good play by the converted catcher.
You might say, well, he could have tagged the bag, made it a little easier out, but they're trying to catch the ball and tag the bag. It's sort of tough.
And there's a look at Dan Gladden, who played on a lot of winning teams here.
Danny had a lot of spirit.
He did that.
Yeah, he and Brett Lawrie brought a lot of energy to their clubs. Jimmy 0 for 1, hit a little soft line drive to Mauer as he takes ball 1. 1-1 to count. Yeah, but you know, going back to this ballpark in Mauer, home runs. First game we saw in this ballpark. Commented then that this levels out the playing field for Minnesota. They don't have that home advantage they had at the old Metrodome.
No.
This is going to even it out, and boy, has it ever.
Well, we saw a couple of things happen. Mike Kadire drove a ball to left center field and didn't go out.
How about the one Justin Morneau hit off Matt Thornton?
I mean, it served notice because nobody really knew how this park was going to play. When they moved over, they thought at first this would be a hitter's ballpark because the dimensions aren't that great. And yet, in the playing of it, because it's actually below street level, it seems to play a lot bigger than the dimensions would tell you. The wind not that much of a factor, and this park is just too big for Joe Mauer. He can't hit the ball out of it consistently.
Well, I asked Matt after the game. It looked like he was almost giggling as that's fouled down on the breaking pitch. He says, yeah, when he hit it, I just turned around and I just wanted to see how far it was going to go. And it just did get to up against the fence. It was caught. There's a 2-2. Oh yeah, stick it in your pocket. You can cancel a post-game show. Kansas City special.
Well, there was a day when the guys would be yelling out of the dugout He hit it exactly as you threw it, softly. And that slow breaking ball was just cued off the end of the bat. As soon as it stayed on the grass, you knew it had no chance of rolling foul. And so the perfect game, the no-hitter by the boards, and now Sox are going to try to work on the shutout.
First at 30, Jose. Struck out his first trip on a good cutter. I mean, it was wicked. Breaking ball. Jose now 7 for 22 lifetime off use. Couple of big men going at one another right here. Decent lead by Jimmy. Oh, and 2. He knew it.
See where Suzuki wants it. And this was a cutter, and that's one of the things he's worked on. Neil Allen was trying to convince him to use that cutter inside to the right-hand hitters, and it makes him a lot more effective. And that's exactly what happened. It freezes the hitter. There's a look at Neil. Freezes a hitter. He just gives up on it, and the ball slices back over the plate, and he got the call third.
Here's Todd. He struck out.
That's a very hittable fastball right down the middle at 90 miles an hour and just swung through it.
Got that one in on. And that'll retire the side, but we get our first hit, an infield swinging bunt. Trevor Plouffe will lead it off in their half of the fourth inning. Struck out on the slider. Count evens at 1.
Melky very deep in left field, as you would expect for a guy with as much power as Plouffe.
Oh yeah, nice.
That was a good changeup, 81 miles an hour.
Nice, nice. That's trouble. No. Good jump. Nice catch.
Adams stayed down on this one, and on a line drive that doesn't get above the lights, it's very easy to lose it in the lights. He did a nice job of coming across, keeping his eye on it, then getting down about as low as he could get to take that one away. Good effort by Adam Eaton, who's made the adjustment to right field very well.
Austin Jackson has helped that transition. Here's Eddie Rosario, struck out swinging on a fastball. Get over there. Oh, Jose's got time. 2 down. Yeah, when you got a guy, as we talked about, you can play center, right center, and left center. Boy, it makes playing the corners so much more easy versus having a guy who's got his own problems out there in center.
Lawson can go get him. That's one of the things that Rick Hahn knew when he got him, was that he would shore up the defense. But it's been a very pleasant surprise how much he's added to the offense.
Well, in Kansas City, I played corner to a guy in center field who could go get him. And all Sox fans know him. As there, he just shoves that one into right field. So Escobar with a soft single, and that was Jim Landis. And when you get a guy who can do that, it makes playing left or right very, very nice.
Kepler is playing because Byung-Ho Park had fanned 12 times at 21 at bats, and Paul Molitor told me that he just wanted to let him look at a game. The young man was pressing after hitting 50+ home runs the last couple of years in Korea. He wanted to establish that he could play here, and he was starting to swing at just about everything. In fact, he had 2 strikes 15 different times and struck out 12 of those times.
Well, we just saw him the one game, but he has a big swing.
Yep.
And as you well know, guys with coming to the American League or the National Big Leagues with a big swing, they're going to have a little more trouble adjusting than other ones. You've been in a lot of meetings, and you're going over young guys, and they say, let's see how he handles fastball in.
Well, that's exactly what most young guys they talk about. Can he get his hands out? If the answer is no, he's going to see a whole lot of those in there and break a lot of bats or strike out a lot.
Kepler with a 1-2 count.
Well, you would think here would be forthcoming one of those hard sliders.
Well, right here, you don't want to let him hurt you on a fastball unless it's out of the zone. And he just went up and got it.
Nice pickup by Alex Avila.
Decent lead and a full count.
It's one of the things that young pitchers have a hard time with. Every one of the base runners tonight for the Twins has come with 2 outs and nobody on. 2 outs and nobody on in the first, a walk to Sano. 2 outs and nobody on in the third, the walk and the base hit to Dozier and Mauer, and 2 outs nobody on here, the base hit to Escobar. You find that with young pitchers much more than veterans, because they have a hard time after they get 2 outs. Sometimes there's a natural tendency to relax.
Just got a piece of it. Well, what you're saying is true, but in this case tonight, he had both those walks struck out.
Yeah. Well, the second one, the second call was unbelievable to Dozier, and I think when Andy looks at that one again, he'll realize it was just one of those in the course of a game that he missed.
Well, he's going to miss some. They're all going to miss some. See a couple of 100 pitches, 250, 300 pitches in a game, you're going to miss some. That's foul. Even Joe West might miss a pitch or two in April.
It's a pretty good play by Butch Davis at first base.
All right, he got caught in between, stood his ground, and going to take it off the chest. That a boy, Jose. Nice play. And we're into the 5th. Rod Carew making his way up.
Greatest players to ever play this game. The Twins, along with Rod and Rhonda Carew, created Heart of 29, which is a campaign started this year to educate fans about heart health and raise funds for the American Heart Association. And Rod, you had a very, very serious and potentially fatal heart attack, and then you decided to raise some money. How has it been so far?
Well, Steve, it's been great. You know, the Twins organization, they've really come up front big time. And we just want to teach people about their hearts. Make sure that they take care of them. Make sure that they get a physical and get a x-ray to make sure that everything is okay. And I didn't think that I would be here. From the heart attack that I had, they call it a widowmaker. And I never thought that I would be here at a ball game sitting here talking to you guys.
Well, certainly Rhonda is very happy that in this case it wasn't the widowmaker, and you've done just a great job. These Twins fans are wonderful fans. They always have been. I know they've treated you exceptionally well, and the Twins fans can help by walking or donating to the Twin Cities Heart Walk on Saturday, May 14th at Target Field. How has it been to be received in a completely different way, because now you're representing the American Heart Association, which is something that affects all of us in one way or another?
Well, you know, what's funny is that this is like my second calling to help people. Because when my youngest daughter, Michelle, had leukemia, I really had to go out there and tell people about going to the National Maradona program and getting tested. So I think that my friend upstairs is giving me a second chance to do this, to help other people.
There's that double by Laurie. Well, Rod, you have always been a person, first of all, for the youngsters out there who may not know, Rod Carew, 328 career hitter, 7-time batting champion in the American League, and one of the greatest second basemen to ever play the game, has always been loved and respected by his peers. And that's unusual for a guy who beat as many clubs as you beat over. Usually people don't like that.
Well, you know, I enjoyed the battles I had with Steve.
I didn't.
Because they were fun. But, you know, I really enjoyed playing the game. And, I was blessed, but still yet I had to work at my trade to continue to improve and get better.
Well, that's a great thing you're doing here, big guy. I know you're going to be traveling around, going to some other ballparks and some other clubs doing the same thing to raise money for that heart disease, which is is that the biggest killer in America?
It's the biggest killer in America. And you just never know. It snuck up on me, and I thought I was healthy. I just walked the night before. I did a walk at Angel Stadium for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. 10-mile walk, and I was fine.
And no symptoms whatsoever before that?
No symptoms whatsoever. None.
That's why they call it the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
And there is where you can go, twinsbaseball.com, Heart of 29, to get more information or find out about Rod's quest to bring awareness to folks about how you can prevent it, and if you do unfortunately have heart disease, how you can live with it.
Well, one thing about Rod, he had some of the greatest hands. I used to love to watch him hit. In fact, everybody did. We used to watch Rod hit. All he did was rotate his hands. He's got big hands, strong hands. People don't understand that if you watch him at batting practice, if he wanted to, he could hit it as far as anybody. But in the game, all he wanted to do was just get on base, get base hits, and
score runs for Harmon.
And Rod also flirted with 400. That was back in '77 when he hit 388.
What was it like here? I mean, you started out with the Twins and things went exceptionally well for you. Obviously, the fans love you here, but then you had almost a second career with the Angels, and you guys almost won it.
Yeah, we almost did, because we had the Reggie Jacksons and the Burlesons and the Freddie Lynns and the Douglasons. Plus, there was a great owner in Mr. Autry, who everybody wanted to win for, and we never did, but we just kept pushing.
He also had the best high fastball left-handed hitting team I've ever seen, with you and Anderson and Erstad and those guys. All you guys could hit that high heat.
I love the fastball.
I know you do.
I wasn't crazy about the all-speed stuff, but I just sat on the fastball throughout the whole count.
And another thing, a lot of people, because the Twins are not covered like a lot of other big market teams, tell people what a great hitter Tony Oliva was.
Oh, he was the best. Learned a lot from him, roomed with him for 10 years. And so we became so close. Even today we're very close. But he could hit.
And there's the 6 and the 29. A couple of retired numbers as well, you would expect.
10 batting titles between the two of us.
Well, I think Tony is certainly in the top 3 or 4 guys, best hitters, who are not in the Hall of Fame.
And we're trying to get him there, Hawk.
Well, I've been trying for a long time. People, it's one of those things. His knees cut his career short. But boy, I'll tell you one thing, he was unbelievable. In '67, when We were talking earlier. We beat you guys on the last day of the season. We did not have the best team, the Red Sox. Minnesota had the best team. Detroit was second. We were third. And the White Sox were fourth. White Sox couldn't score any runs, but they had the best pitching.
Right. Yep. Had all those sinker ballers.
Oh. At least sinker. Full count right here. And what is got a chance to be with that single and double. A big inning off Phil Hughes.
Well, just some contact. A ground ball to the right side scores 1. And you got to push 1 across at least in this situation.
That's out of play.
This is where, as a hitter, you really have to bear down. You know what? I don't know, for some reason or the other, these youngsters don't care if they swing and miss. You know, it's just crazy.
That wasn't the attitude that you guys had in your era, certainly.
Well, when you get a guy, as I mentioned earlier in the telecast, some guys that were not afraid to hit with 2 strikes, and Rod Carew was certainly one of those. As we mentioned, Wade Boggs was another, and George Brett was another. So when you get a guy like that, but strikeouts were taboo, so to speak.
Yeah.
They were taboo. That's why Kansas City is within 1 out of winning 2 straight world championships. They put the ball in play.
Put the ball in play all the time.
And the payoff pitch. Just got a piece of it.
And the longest walk on the baseball field is from home plate back to the dugout. You know that, Stevie.
Well, I kind of
break those breaking balls off.
I kind of enjoyed that, but yeah, for hitters certainly, but you didn't have to worry about that too much. And what I was talking to you about before the game was your ability to bunt with 2 strikes against a tough left-hand pitcher. I haven't seen anybody do it better than you ever in the game.
Well, they don't work at it. It's an embarrassment to bunt today.
Big strikeout, 2 down. 7 strikeouts now.
Hughes battled and then went upstairs with a fastball and threw it by him. That was in the zone. And so the toughest guy in this ball club to deal with is Austin Jackson for Phil Hughes. You got first base open. You got a guy who doesn't like to walk people. And Jackson hit a rocket the first time up in the 3rd, only to line out to Buxton in center.
Well, you know, the way I look at it, Rod, this is my 56th year in the game, is when you and I played back in our time zone, we had our game. We had our culture. We had our rules. We had our unwritten rules that we played by.
Right.
This is a different culture today. They have their game today. It's a lot different than we did.
Yes.
A lot different than we did. And
it's not a good baseball culture, I don't think.
Well, it's the one that they grew up with. It's the one, you know, I forget who it was. It was one of the Latin kids that said it right. He says, you know, we came up, I'm coming out current now, we came up learning a different game than the Americans. Yes, he's going to get out of a 2nd and 3rd, nobody out. Rod Carew, always nice to see you, buddy, and thanks so much for your great work.
Thanks, my friend.
All right,
great
buddy.
to see you, too. Steve, great to see you. Thank you.
Well, what a job by Phil Hughes. Men on second and third. Nobody out, and leaves them right there. So here's Suzuki. That is a big lift for the Twins, and we have got to hold them right here.
Yeah, a huge inning for Carlos, because you come back and you shut the Twins down.
It sort of levels it out again.
Yep. That time the front foot slipped, and he threw that fastball up and out of the zone. So quickly a 2-0 count on Suzuki, who has been a very good hitter lifetime against our Sox.
No walks. No walks. We used to come in and play the Twins, the old Met. We'd go over the Twins for every game. Yeah, that's not good. Leadoff walk. And I'll never forget some of the meetings we had, especially when Alvin Dark was managing our club. We'd come to Carew, usually hitting second. Throw it right down the middle. Tell him it's coming. Throw it right down the middle. We've been trying to get him out. We can't get him out, so throw it right down the middle. See if he can get himself out. Tony Oliva hitting third. Throw it right down the middle. We can't get him out. See if he can get himself out. For those two guys, I've never heard that before. Tried to bunt it.
Bad technique on the part of Buxton, because quite obviously he's not a sacrifice bunter. He bunts for a base hit, so he tried to push it to the right side, but he dropped the head of the bat. Anytime you do that, you're going to pop the ball up, and he caught a break because it was not in fair territory.
Good decision right there by Avila.
You could have gambled and maybe it would have rolled foul, but it was moving very slowly, and if it doesn't, you open the door up for a big inning. So it is a sacrifice. This being a good bunt, and Buxton with great speed. So Alex made the throw, and Red Lowry leaned toward the inside part to give him a better angle, because he didn't have a good angle when he picked it up.
Here's Dozier. He has popped up to right. Good catch by Adam Eaton, and he has walked. Big gap out there in right center. We got a man there. Good approach by Dozier. Meanwhile, two gone.
Provide your guests with the ultimate all-inclusive White Sox experience in the Home Plate Club or Magellan Scout seats. These two premium seating areas are the best way to entertain your most important clients, employees, friends, or family. For more information, call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com/premium seating.
So here's Mauer. You know, talking about Rod Carew, and he was talking about the strikeouts. He never struck out 100 times in a year. In fact, the only time he ever came close was his rookie year. After that, he never even came close to striking out 100 times.
Just a completely different philosophy in the day that Rod came up and what we're seeing today.
Well, in essence, there's always a tipping point in anything, and a template that sets the standard for at that particular time zone going forward. And the guy who really changed that was Reggie Jackson.
A lot of home runs, a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah. There's the strike.
Well, pretty much he was Babe Ruth later down the road, because Ruth did the same thing, struck out a lot and hit, at the time, the most home runs ever. Reggie didn't quite hit that many, but he hit enough of them to make a huge difference, and struck out enough where perennially among the league leaders.
Well, from the time of Babe's era until Reggie got there, it had leveled out to where striking out was no good. That was taboo. And if they thought you were going to strike out 100 times a year, you're probably going to go back to the minor leagues. And when Reggie got there and started hitting a lot of home runs, it came back to where it's okay, let him hit his home runs, let him strike out. Get over there. That'll be what? All right. He shuts him down after the leadoff walk. We're into the 6th. Still no score.
Team pride with White Sox checking, an official White Sox debit card, only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. Wintrust Community Bank, a member of FDIC.
First pitch to Adam Eaton. Just almost nipped it. Adam is 0 for 2. Grounder to short, hard. Then he hit one in the hole between first and second. Maurer made a very fine diving stop and threw him out. Oh, 3-0 for our guys. 0-2-0 for their guys. Get down. It will. Thank you very much. So the leadoff single. Not hit hard, but he'll take it.
Here's an opportunity for the first time in the game, and the Sox haven't had one yet, to use the hit and run. Hughes, a big man, doesn't have the greatest move to first base. And in the 2 games, they have yet to test Suzuki.
He's got a text from a buddy of mine, says, why didn't McEwing try to score Cabrera? Because he couldn't.
No, it wouldn't have been. Melky doesn't have the greatest speed around.
Especially with nobody out. But if he tried to score him, he'd been a gone goose. He's a good one, Joe McEwen.
And Hughes did just a great job of getting out of a second and third nobody out with the strikeout and the ground out to end the inning of Sands, Avila, and Jackson, respectively.
First and third, and Jimmy. Outside.
Where a whole lot of teams will overshift on Jimmy Rollins, putting 3 guys on the right side. Minnesota plays them to pull, but they've got Escobar playing up the middle, but on the third base side of second.
Attaboy. Now first and third, and nobody out.
Dozier dove over the top of it. Probably wouldn't have had a play even if he came up with it, but it allowed Adam Eaton to hustle into third base. This is a rolling curveball, probably as bad as Hughes has thrown one tonight. Tried to nip the outside corner, as it was, got well too much of the plate, and now he's in a jam once again.
Here's Jose. He's 0 for 2 with a couple of strikeouts. Checks it up on that breaking ball, and it was a strike.
Rosario has a good and accurate arm in left field. Buxton, a fairly good arm in center, and Kepler a good arm in right. So a pretty decent throwing outfield for the Twins.
Well, they're going to give up the run for the 2. Meanwhile, it's 1-0 good guys.
See the White Sox take on the Texas Rangers on Friday, April 22nd at 7:10. First 20,000 fans in attendance will receive a White Sox tote bag presented by the MLB Network. Be sure to stay after the game for a post-game fireworks show presented by the aforementioned MLB Network. Purchase your tickets today at whitesox.com or call 866-SOX-GAME.
Well, with Jose having struck out the first 2 times up, we just wanted some contact to get that man in.
And that'll get the job done, although you stay out of the big inning. But Sox take the lead and give Carlos Rodon just his second run of the year.
That's up high.
Hughes being around the plate as much as he is, and that's as well as anybody in the league, usually gives up a lot of home runs. He has yet to give one up tonight.
That's off the corner. Call for a strike.
And Frazier's having a talk with Andy Fletcher, who's not having the best of nights behind the plate. Huge difference between 2-1 and 1-2. Only 2 teams yet to win in the major leagues. The Minnesota Twins, one of them. The Atlanta Braves, the other one.
Breaking ball way outside.
And Atlanta lost again to Washington Their record pushed to 0-8. The Nationals, who a lot of people picked to win it in the East, which has become a yearly occurrence, they've run their record to 6-1. It was a nice job of staying alive on a breaking ball down. Too close to take, too tough to hit, so he fouled it off. This is called the emergency hack. Taking it right out of the glove of Suzuki.
That's got a piece of that one. But in 91, he's throwing a lot of 90, 91 mile an hour fastballs that had a good part of the plate tonight.
Yeah, he's got some pretty decent life on it. Otherwise, 91 straight gets tattooed most of the time.
The real guns, not the radar gun that they're using. Real guns are the eyes of the hitter. So it might be something in his delivery that he's just 6 inches quicker than he looks from the side.
Well, usually when Phil Hughes walks somebody, it is cause for celebration after walking just 16 the last couple of years. But his second 3-2 count.
Well, he's walked 16 in his last 365 innings.
It's pretty good.
32. Ate him up right there. But we get a run. We go to the bottom of the 6th, leading 1-0. Sano, Plouffe, Rosario. Sano has walked, and then he just missed one with a couple of guys on back in the 3rd inning. High, towering fly ball into right field. That strike evens count of 1. A little bit low.
That was a very good pitch, tantalizingly close, but it dipped out of the zone.
You don't even have to see this guy hit the ball and put it in play to realize how strong he is.
Well, he's also hitting just .28, 1 for 36 on fastballs up this year. So let her high, maybe a little higher. Good place for it. Boy, that was a perfect pitch.
It was a strike.
And he didn't get it again.
This has been amazing tonight.
Alex right there. He fills up the glove and doesn't get the strike.
This has been amazing, really. It's the second time he's had him struck out, and the second time he's walked him. Now Vila's saying something to Fletcher, I should say.
And Don Cooper's very unhappy, and well, he should be. I mean, you can miss a pitch obviously every now and then, and you will. There's a couple pitches that he had most or all of the plate that haven't been called, and that puts the young man in big problems leading off an inning.
Well, he's walked 4 guys. He's had 3 of them struck out. Oh boy. Here's Plouffe.
Minnesota's only grounded into 2 double plays this year. Trevor Plouffe has grounded into 1 of them, but normally he is a very good man for 2.
Oh, 0-2 the count. That fastball at 95.
That seems to be the spot that overpowers Trevor Plouffe more times than not. Last year he hit just .219 on all fastballs. That was among the lowest in all of baseball. League average on fastballs was .286. Pitch number 95 on the way, so with the strikeouts and the walks, the pitches have piled up.
Well, that blown call by Fletcher is now standing at second base with nobody out.
Alex wants it inside. Unfortunately, Carlos misses his spot, gets it outside, and Plouffe goes that way. So a big jam. Runners at first and second, nobody out. And we'll see if Paul Molitor wants to have Rosario laying one down. Now Frazier just had a talk with Carlos on what exactly the defense is going to be and if he wants him to charge straight in or over toward the line at third.
Rosario struck out and grounded out to first. See what Molitor. As he's going to break it down. Now that blown call is standing at third base with 1 out.
This is a good bunt by Rosario, forcing Todd to the only play he had, which was to first base. And the pen is up and going as Carlos is nearing the 100 pitch mark. Jake Petrichka throwing into pen.
Corners in close. Lowry in at second a little bit.
They're going to put him on first base, take their chances with Kepler. Now it'll be interesting to see if Paul Molitor wants to take down the rookie for a pinch hitter. He's 0 for 2, hasn't had the ball out of the infield yet.
Well, last year and so far this year, Escobar's had just about as much success against us as anybody in that lineup as far as doing damage.
And last time up, hit the ball very well. Well, the bases are going to be loaded for, at the moment, Max Kepler. Sox fans, you can bring your little all-star closer to the game. Those fans under 13 or 13 can join the White Sox Kids Club for special Kids Club giveaways. Get free White Sox tickets and exclusive events. Head to whitesox.com/Kids Club today to join.
Here's where the hitting coach and or the manager can help Max Kepler out. And by that I mean, before he goes up to play, you can call him over and say, look, you got the bases loaded. He's not going to mess around with you. First time he throws you that fastball, just jump over. And if he gets 3 sliders over, don't worry about it. You come sit by me.
No, he's not going to throw him 3 sliders.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So just this is where, but you take a little pressure off the hitter. Sacks packed with Twinkies. 1 out. First pitch strike, and there it was.
You got a first ball fastball, and you're a young man looking for some contact, and you take maybe the best pitch you'll see in the at bat.
Well, that's why you got to give him an idea, give him a little something, an approach right there. Two in a row right there. If he went up there looking for a slider.
No.
Shame on him.
No.
Shame
not his
on
major league debut. He's not looking for any sliders.
Oh, thank goodness. He gone. There it was. After he hit through 2 fastballs right down Broadway.
You see where the first 2 pitches are, and then the slider, which is pretty much unhittable, especially when you get down in the count. So the rookie getting his first taste of major league pitching this year went down on 3 pitches. Now we got a guy who's always hit well against our Sox.
Well, he's a .313 hitter against us coming into last night's ball game. Slider just misses. With 5 home runs and 46 RBIs. A lot of them coming in game situations, game winning situations for him. Pops him up right side, come back, it won't.
Carlos has had just 1-1-2-3 inning, and by and large he has pitched out of everything that the Twins have thrown at him tonight. If he can just get Suzuki, most likely he will be taken down in this one. It's pitch number 106 forthcoming. But that's a big out from a veteran and a guy who's had a lot of luck against the Sox career-wise.
Pops him up. Trying to come back. Will he get there? No. Just on the edge, front edge of the Minnesota dugout. So the count 1-2.
Well, if Alex is going to call that slider. And that's how he got Suzuki on a pop-up in the third. You got to make sure you smother it down.
This one's playable. Todd, watch out. Come on, watch out. Meanwhile, he pitches out of it. Good job by Rodon, and we're into the 7th, leading 1-0.
Three pitches to Max Kepler with the bases loaded. Fastball for a strike. Fastball for a strike. Slider for swinging strike 3. And then against a very tough hitter, Kurt Suzuki, he got him to pop up and out of the inning with a 1-0 lead. The speed replay is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV, and a great job by Carlos Rodon, who's greeted very enthusiastically by his teammates because he's been pitching out of a lot of jams tonight. Most of them not of his own making.
That's exactly right. Here's Melky. He's 1 for 2. Beautiful play, timing play by Mauer.
Mauer 6'5" and needed every inch of it as he takes what could have been a double away from Melky, who already had a hit. Drives his ball, and Mauer up to the top of his leap, showing you that versatility that he uses. A 3-sport star right across town in St. Paul.
There's another base hit for Laurie. He's now 2 for 3. Went out deep to right his first trip, doubled into left center field, and now singles up the middle.
Hey, Sox fans, with Papa John's Pizza the day after the Sox win, you get 50% off your entire online order of regular menu priced items. Only at papajohns.com. So when you use the promo code SoxWin, you can do it. That's at participating Papa John's locations. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's.
So here's Jerry Sands. He's 0 for 2 with a couple of strikeouts. In reality, the same thing holds true for this youngster. As we were talking about Kepler. You got a man out there who's going to throw strikes. He's going to throw you a fastball. You got to say, look, sit on that heater. And if he gets 3 cutters or 3 sliders over, don't worry about it. Come back and sit by me. Give him something positive to sit on and to think about.
Well, he's strong enough and has been around long enough to know he doesn't have to get it all to hit it out. Even when Hughes misses, he misses just barely off the corner. As you can see, that one didn't miss by much.
You gotta stay with it. You can't pull your head.
That time Suzuki wanted a fastball away. He sat away. Hughes missed, but he got away with it on a high fastball.
That stat on Sano is almost unbelievable.
He hasn't made a whole lot of contact, and he's not going to hit the ball up too often.
That's almost an unbelievable stat for a young, strong hitter. 1 for 37, 1 for 38 on high fastballs.
On high fastballs.
That's, well, the first rule about trying to hit major league pitching, you got to cover the fastball. That ball hit hard in center field. Buxton goes back. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes. He just reached out and flicked it. A line shot right over that center field fence, and it's a 3-0 game. Yes.
First home run, first two driven in. And we told you about Hughes's propensity to give up the long ball. When you're around the plate as much as he is, you're going to throw some home runs. That one of the timely variety. He didn't appear to get it all, but he doesn't have to get it all. And Paul Mahler is going to come out. He's going to take Hughes out of this ball game. He's already motioned to the pen.
I'll tell you, A.T. Alan Thomas, our strength and conditioning coach, said Hughes, he's told me, he said, Hawk, he said, you won't believe how strong this guy is. But Phil Hughes departs, and we'll be back.
None other. And a two-run homer on a cutter down and away, and Jerry Sands just reaches out, seemingly flicks it 420 feet away from home plate. Buxton has got some speed, but he's not going to run through the wall to get that one.
Thing you got to love about that swing is, as A-Bat comes on, is watch the finish. The finish will tell you how short and quick it was. What's this? Now watch where his hands finish in relationship to his shoulder and his chest. Makes a nice soft approach right here. Just flicks the bat. Now see where his hands stop right there in front of his chest? That's close to a Canerco swing right there.
Fernando Abad comes into the ball game, and he's been awfully good out of that bullpen. This is his 4th appearance. He has yet to give up a run. He's only given up 1 hit. And you might remember him from the Oakland Athletics.
And of course, with that home run by Jerry Sands, Alex Snellius, another generous donation to White Sox charities in loving memory of Ursula. Thank you, Alex, once again.
So for Phil Hughes, his night is done. He went 6 1/3, gave up the 3 runs on 7 hits, didn't walk anybody, and a big strikeout night for him. 7 strikeouts.
Breaking ball, got the plate, didn't get it. Well, so far this season, it's just the 8th game, but that's the biggest exhibition of strength that we have seen.
There's no doubt that he didn't appear to put one of his best swings on it, but boy, the ball just flew off the bat. And that was a hunch by Robin tonight, starting Jerry Sands against a right-hander as the designated hitter, and the hunch certainly paid off.
Just got a piece of it. And in between innings, after Sands had come back to that dugout, this is what I love. One of the things I love about Tyler Saladino. I'm telling you what, when he's not playing, he's still contributing. He's just over there leading the cheers, leading the pat on the backs, jumping up and down. Schiff's going to get him.
Now the pitch before with 2 strikes. Paul Molitor shifted his infield, and Plouffe went actually into exactly the hole where Alex hit it. He wasn't there on the first 2 strikes of the at bat.
Well, 2 strikes, you're less apt to be able to maneuver the ball.
Well, you don't have to worry about bunting. You don't have to worry about anything hit to the left side in this case.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about maneuvering the bat. He was trying to make contact. So here's Austin, lined out hard to center, grounded to third. Off the end of the bat on that off speed, but a bullet line shot home run over the center field fence here at Target Field by Jerry Sands, and the Sox lead at 3-0.
League Baseball scoreboard and schedule. Jake Petrichka comes in the ball game, so that will be it for Carlos Rodon, who threw scoreless ball through 6. There you look at the numbers as the Sox lead by 3. Jake with an inning under his belt. No record, no ERA. This is his 3rd appearance.
Big man right here, first out. Byron Buxton, the hitter. Buxton has struck out and has a sacrifice bunt. Come on, Jake. No walks, buddy.
Rodon went 6. Gave up just 3 hits, walked 5, one of them intentionally, and he fanned 6.
There's one. Make him swing the bat. It's full. Buxton taking 2 all the way.
There's a pen. Nate Jones, Zach Duke. Jones, the right-hander on the left, and Duke, the left-hander on the right.
He gone. Good job coming back from that 3-0 count.
See your name in lights at an upcoming White Sox game. You can celebrate a birthday, an anniversary, and more with a scoreboard message. Proceeds benefit White Sox charities. To book your message, visit whitesox.com/scoreboard.
That'll bring up Brian Dozier, who's 0 for 2. Twice he has gone out to right field. And he's walked.
Jake's stuff is really good. He's got a great sinker, enough velocity, and a good enough off-speed pitch. Be a big factor out of the pen if he gets the ball over the plate.
Well, he's got to trust it. He's got to trust his stuff. A lot of times, I know what we're talking about is easier said than done. What Steve just told you is right on the money. He's got good stuff.
Yeah. And with
but he's got to believe it. Not just hearing it. He's got to believe it. Miro's got to believe it.
Well, 3 walks in 1 inning of work. He fell behind 3-0, but a good comeback to Buxton.
Two and 1 to count.
And with the off day yesterday, the only scheduled off day in April, Robin has very much of a rested pen. So everybody is available to him. There's good movement on that sinking fastball.
You know, I don't talk to our guys too much about it. About our pitchers, I talk to a lot of the opposing hitters, and they'll tell you, they'll give you a good line. Well, this guy's tough. Just off the plate.
One of the best aspects of this bullpen is the diverse nature of the stuff.
That's one of the reasons I love it.
I mean, you get guys that are flamethrowers like Nate Jones, get good sinker ballers like Matt Albers, Jake Petrichka.
Different looks.
Yeah.
think I mentioned it the other day, is that there for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, everybody coming out of our bullpen looked the same.
Yeah, hard right hand fastballs, 95 to 98, whatever it was, but
Yeah.
but they did look approximately like the same guy. Not so today.
They go.
Well, that was a really good sinker. The bottom just fell out of that, and Dozier expanded that zone instead of standing at first. He is a strikeout victim, and for this Twins ball club, they are striking out at an alarming rate.
Well, you know, we talk so much, which we have to, about Don Cooper, in my opinion, MVP of this organization for a long time. The guy who was doing a heck of a job down that pen did it last year, and Bobby Thicke.
So Jake did what he had to do, getting the 2 men he was assigned, and now Zach comes on, trying to get the man that he's assigned. Joe Mauer, who does have a hit tonight.
And is a career .313 hitter. So these left-handed specialists don't always have it so easy.
No.
Coming in the face.
Joe is not intimidated by left-handers.
No.
And he follows in a long line of batting title winners wearing a Twins uniform.
Good strike. And the count 0-2. Boy, Rod Carew, 7 batting championships. Made one still real strong run at 400. Made another one that wound up. Got a bruise, I think, on his hand. Wound up hitting like 364, 365 as he fouls that one away.
Well, he made a pretty good transition because he was a second baseman when he came up, and you know, in those days, the day that he came up, they used to go at and take out the second baseman routinely, and with the guy coming at you from behind, you're going to get hit a lot. He eventually then made the transition to first base, and he could do what he did, which was win batting titles.
He was something. And doing great work now for Heart Association.
There you can see the heart of 29. Fundraising endeavor that Rod and his wife have become involved with the aid of the Minnesota Twins.
Late breaker right there. Good. Even though it was up and not in the ideal spot, still a pretty good breaking ball because of this late breaking. And Mauer wasn't new to get a piece of it. Stay in there.
On the last 2 pitches, he pretty much took the ball out of Avila's glove, realizing too close to take and too tough to really put the bat on. Quick pitched him that time, and a good idea. Had it been in the zone, it would have been a better idea. He was trying to get it there and change something against a guy who can really hit.
Three runs on 7 hits, no errors for our guys. No runs, 3 hits, no errors for their guys. Here in game 2 of this 3-game set. Finale tomorrow afternoon. Matt Latos against Urban Santana. That game on Comcast Sportsnet. Then it's on down to St. Pete for a weekend series with the Rays. Full count tomorrow. That was a get me over breaking ball, hit hard. So a good at bat from Mauer. As he will pull up with the 2-out double.
Pretty good battle won by Joe Mauer, as he's won so many before. He fouled up some good pitches. He got a spinning curveball and took it right down the line.
Yeah, those 3-2 get me over breaking balls get hit hard as a rule.
Adam got it back in, holding him at second base. That's going to be it for Zach Duke. So as he walks out and Nate Jones comes running in, we'll step out and be back after these messages. .com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your local nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 38 years. To join the nation, visit jeffvuk.com because Nationwide is on your side. So Nate Jones comes in the game to face Miguel Sano. On for the 5th time. He's 1-0. His ERA .270. 4 strikeouts to 1 walk. Good ratio in 3 1/3 innings. He's got a guy who has struck out in 11 consecutive games, having failed to strike out in this one to this point.
Couple of walks. Well, That ball's hit high into left field. He just missed another one. And that'll retire the side. Went to the 8th, leading 3-0.
Jerry Sands with a 2-run homer, that coming last inning. Carlos Rodon, 6 strong innings, 5 walks, 1 of them intentional walks, just 3 hits, no runs, and 6 Ks. Brought to you by the Honda Dream Garage Sales Event, now at your Honda dealer.
First pitch strike to Adam Eaton, leading off here in the top of the 8th inning. Adam 1 for 3, a single, leading off the 6th, and he came around to score first run of this ball game. 0-2. Just a roller, got away with it.
The Bod's been around, came up to the big leagues with Houston in 2010. Then was with Washington in 2013. With Oakland in 14 and 15. 14 was a great year for him. 157 ERA and 69 appearances.
There's a chopper to Hopper.
Follow White Sox baseball live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your smartphone and tablet. And that's going to be it for a Bod who does a good job. So Paul Molitor goes out to get him. We'll step out and be back after these messages. been doing a pretty good job out of the bullpen. As you can see, on for the 5th time, he hasn't given up anything yet. And this was a great pickup by Minnesota because he was a starting pitcher in the Boston organization. They decided that things weren't going very well as a starter, so they didn't protect him, and he was a Rule 5 draft by these Twins. Since coming over to Minnesota, he's been awfully good. Last year, 2.93 ERA in 27 games. He was hurt part of that year. So one of the better guys out of the pen, and Minnesota needs all they can get by putting their closer on the DL. Glenn Perkins has a sore shoulder. He won't be available, and Presley becomes even bigger out of that pen.
So here's Jimmy. First ball, Honey. Collins now 2 for 4 on the evening. Here's Jose. He's 0 for 3. He's due. Takes it inside, ball 1. To Abreu. Once again, a reminder, finale tomorrow afternoon. Matt Latos against Irvin Santana in that game over Comcast Sportsnet. That is a 12-10 start. Two out, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Those last 2 pitches in that location, completely unhittable. Hard breaking sliders down and out of the zone.
Good pitch, didn't get it. As a rule, you'll see with the bases empty, you'll see Jose chase some of those pitches down there more often than when they're men on base. Oh, what he's done the last 2 years just still amazes me with no protection. There you got a cookie.
Well, the first 2 sliders were unhittable. That one was very much up in the zone, and he rifled a base hit to left field. On our Mazda replay, you'll see this one not quite as good as the first 2, and turns into a base hit to keep the inning alive.
Yeah, that was a spiral.
Yep.
So here's Todd. Takes just off the corner. Now he's got the catbird seat. Touch him up right here. That's high in the right field. Now the wind's got it, bringing it back on the infield. And that'll return to the side. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th, leading 3-0.
Ventura by logging on to WGN.com and click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner for the latest stats and information. Sox Game Zone is powered by Dodd Camera, family owned for 125 years, handling all your photographic needs. Dodd Camera, where the focus is on you.
Trevor Plouffe will lead it off for Minnesota. He'll be followed by Eddie Rosario and Eduardo Escobar. Plouffe 1 for 3. Takes ball 1.
That one base hit coming in the 6th inning where Carlos Rodon in a jam, bases loaded, only 1 out, struck out Kepler, got Suzuki on a pop-up and got out of the inning.
That ball hit high into left field. Melky. Wind blowing briskly.
I think Trevor Plouffe thought he got most of that one, only to see it knocked down. Gives you an idea how strong Jerry Sands is, because Plouffe hit the daylights out of that one and didn't go anywhere. he just wait a second. Oh, they hit that a little better than that.
Rosario 0 for 2 with a sacrifice bunt. Attaboy. 2 down.
Nice job by Nate. That one was ticketed right to Laurie at second base, but you might as well cut it off if you can. And he was able to get this. Kind of a hanging slider on the outside part of the plate, but Rosario didn't get a whole lot into the swing.
Ball hit into right field. Ball was hit well. Meanwhile, not going anywhere in that wind. Again, another example of the strength of Jerry Sands.
Inning, and Minnesota has a pitching change. Michael Tonkin. Inning in the third, a hit, no runs, couple of walks. He takes over for Presley, who did a nice job. In fact, Abad and Presley, both out of the bullpen, have done a good job. But the Twins have done so far what they've done most of this year, and that is not generate any offense. There's a look at one of the big differences in this game. Jerry Sands, 2-run homer with 1 out in the 7th inning.
So here's Melky. Melky 1 for 3 and was robbed of extra bases on just a beautiful leaping catch of a vicious line drive by Joe Mauer. Two and 0 the count.
Talking a big man at 6'7", 220 pounds, out of Glendale, California.
That was off the plate, called a strike.
He was originally a 30th round draft pick in 2008 by these Twins.
That ball hit hard. Buxton got a good jump, looks up, it's over his head. Now he will get it back in as Melky will pull up with the leadoff double.
Melky hit the daylights out of that one. So he's hit the ball very hard 3 times tonight. He got a fastball about thigh high on the inner portion and put a charge into it. Buxton made the effort but couldn't get back and get it. No chance to add an insurance run, something the Sox have done quite a bit of this year. In fact, they've got 6 runs scored in the 9th inning this year.
Here's Brett. He has hit the ball hard 3 times. 2 for base hits, 1 for a double, and 1 for a single.
David Robertson loosening up. The day game tomorrow, if the Sox do put this run up, odds are he probably won't be pitching.
A ball and 2 strikes.
The recently called up Taylor Rogers throwing in the pen. He was a starter in the minor leagues, working out of the bullpen. That was a break as that ball had part of the outside corner.
Turn and burn and long foul. Right size, wrong shape.
That one hit a mile upstairs, but way foul.
Three 9-0 for us, 0-4-0 for them. Second of this 3-game set. Just got a piece of it. Lowry, very, very strong guy. Probably got, I would say, probably less body fat maybe than anybody in this league. Jammed himself right there. Pops it up. Bauer. 1 out. Here's Sands. Here's what he did in the 7th. Man aboard. That's one of the easiest swings you'll ever see against the wind for a 420-foot line drive.
Especially on a cutter low and away.
Good pitch there. 0-2 the count. Two down. Here's Alex. Alex 0 for 3 tonight. Pick him up, Alex. For their guys in the bottom of the 9th, schedule hitters are Kepler, Suzuki, and Buxton. Checking some other scores for you. Houston trailing Kansas City 4-2, tops the 8th down in Texas. That's foul back.
And normally with a lead late in the game like that, it's pretty much all Kansas City.
It has been for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Right side. Dozier. All right. We go to the bottom of the 9th, leading by 3.
number 4. Got a 3-run lead. He's got the bottom part of the order. And Robertson has been magnificent out of the pen. This is his 4th appearance, 3 for 3 in saves. So the youngster Max Kepler going to lead it off.
Kepler 0 for 3 tonight. Takes first pitch strike. That's into center field. That's a can of corn for our guy. And that's fixed to click tonight. Good call by Steve on taking Sands against Phil Hughes. Sands' first start in the Sox uniform.
Yeah, and I figure if the hunch was played by Robin, I'd ride along with him.
Here's Suzuki, 0 for 2 with a walk. Very quickly to count 0-2.
David Robertson served his apprenticeship setting up for one of the all-time greats, Mariano Rivera. Said he couldn't believe a guy could throw that many of the same pitch and still get people out.
2 down.
Mariano threw the cutter. David probably learned a little bit on how to make that fastball move like a cutter. That's what his does. Couldn't have anybody better to learn from than Mariano Rivera.
Well, if you think about it, it took, well, actually they never learned. In all the years Mariano relieved, opposing managers always ran left-handed hitters up there to pinch hit against him, which was absolutely asinine.
Well, that was death.
I mean, it was unbelievable. Oswaldo Arcia hitting for Buxton, who was 0 for 2. Yeah, that was just absolute unbelievable. Mariano probably for a reliever in the history of the game broke more bats than any other one.
You knew it was coming. A left-hand hitter knew exactly what was coming. They just couldn't seem to back off far enough to lay off it.
He just kept going there deep and deeper. Strike. So the count 2-1. Dozier on deck. No walks, David. Outfield straight up. And a full count. That's going to be a souvenir left side.
Not too long ago, the Twins felt that Arcia was Going to be one of their corner outfielders of the future. He's very strong. But in moving Sano to the outfield, it takes up one of those spots. They love Rosario, and Buxton is and was the #1 prospect in all of baseball for quite some time.
He was taken #2 in the draft. The guy who was taken #1, pretty good player.
And that was
Carlos Correa.
I would say that's a pretty good pick. Houston was probably right about that one.
Another chopper foul. Well, Arcia still has tremendous upside. Young, hit it just about as far as anybody.
Well, there's no doubt that in a not too distant future, they're going to move Sano back to third base. Probably going to be next year, the year after, whatever the case may be with Plouffe. When that happens, it will open a spot in the outfield.
Ball is hit very hard.
Into one of those luxury boxes that probably never expected to see anything close to a souvenir tonight.
He's fun to watch at the plate. Alex catching it again. What's this? That big backswing point.
That can't feel too good.
He gone, and this ball game is over. So the Sox make it 2 in a row for the Twins. They win it 3-0. Another terrific job by Rodon, and we'll be back.